Tensions rise as the U.S. Senate moves to limit military action in Iran, while a major earthquake shakes Japan, causing significant damage. Join us as we explore today's top stories that are shaping our world. Here are today's top 10 stories you need to know. In a significant political move, the U.S. Senate voted again on a war powers resolution aimed at curbing military action in Iran. This marks the 10th attempt by Congress to assert its authority over military decisions. The resolution passed with bipartisan support, reflecting a growing concern among lawmakers about the ongoing conflict. President Donald Trump's administration initiated military action in Iran, which has faced increasing scrutiny. Many lawmakers argue that Congress must have a role in decisions that lead to potential military engagements. The resolution, while largely symbolic, directs the president to withdraw U.S. forces from hostilities without congressional approval. This vote comes amid a backdrop of rising tensions in the region and ongoing debates about U.S. foreign policy. The Senate's action highlights the division between the executive branch and legislative authority in matters of war. Moving forward, this resolution may influence the administration's approach to Iran and similar conflicts. The implications of this decision could reshape the landscape of U.S. military involvement abroad. A powerful earthquake struck Japan early today, registering a magnitude of 7.2 on the Richter scale. The epicenter was located off the coast of Honshu, causing widespread panic among residents. Tremors were felt as far away as Tokyo, where buildings shook and alarm systems were activated. Emergency services have reported multiple injuries and significant structural damage in coastal towns. The Japanese government has deployed rescue teams to assess the situation and provide aid to affected areas. Tsunami warnings were initially issued but have since been lifted. This earthquake comes during a particularly active seismic period for the region, raising concerns about the preparedness of infrastructure. Authorities are urging citizens to remain vigilant and to follow safety protocols. As the situation unfolds, recovery efforts will focus on ensuring the safety of residents and restoring essential services. Looking ahead, experts will analyze the earthquake's impact on Japan's earthquake preparedness policies. Global food prices have surged to unprecedented levels in recent months, driven by supply chain disruptions and adverse weather conditions. Reports indicate a rise of over 30% in staple commodities, including wheat and corn. The ongoing conflict in Ukraine has significantly affected grain exports, contributing to global shortages. Additionally, climate change has exacerbated agricultural challenges, with droughts and floods impacting crop yields worldwide. These rising costs are placing immense pressure on consumers, particularly in developing nations, where food security is already precarious. Governments are scrambling to implement measures to stabilize prices, including export restrictions and subsidies. The United Nations has raised alarms about the potential for increased hunger and malnutrition as costs climb. Experts warn that without immediate intervention, the crisis could lead to widespread civil unrest in vulnerable regions. Policymakers are urged to collaborate on solutions that address both immediate and long-term food security challenges. In a landmark decision, world leaders have reached a new climate agreement aimed at drastically reducing greenhouse gas emissions. This agreement, finalized during the recent Global Climate Summit, sets ambitious targets for countries to achieve net zero emissions by 2050. The pact emphasizes renewable energy investments and calls for immediate action to curb fossil fuel consumption. Many nations have committed to phasing out coal and increasing the use of solar and wind energy. The agreement also includes provisions for financial support to developing countries to help them transition to sustainable practices. Environmentalists have praised the agreement as a critical step in combating climate change, although concerns remain about enforcement and accountability. The success of this agreement will depend on the willingness of nations to adhere to their commitments. As the world grapples with climate-related disasters, the urgency for action has never been higher. Looking ahead, experts will monitor progress and advocate for further measures to ensure global compliance. The economic crisis in Venezuela has deepened significantly, leading to a humanitarian disaster as basic necessities become increasingly scarce. Hyperinflation has skyrocketed prices, making it nearly impossible for citizens to afford food and medicine. Reports indicate that many families are resorting to extreme measures, including foraging for food and relying on international aid. The government has struggled to stabilize the economy, and political unrest continues to rise as citizens demand change. International sanctions have further complicated the situation, limiting the government's ability to access foreign aid. NGOs are working tirelessly to provide assistance, but the scale of the crisis is overwhelming. The United Nations has called for urgent international support to address the dire conditions. As the situation worsens, regional neighbors are bracing for an influx of refugees fleeing the turmoil. Moving forward, discussions on how to effectively address the crisis are expected to intensify. Tensions have escalated in the South China Sea as military exercises by China have drawn criticism from neighboring countries and the United States. China's recent maneuvers, which include naval drills near contested islands, have raised concerns about aggressive territorial claims. The U.S. has responded by conducting freedom of navigation operations in the region, asserting its commitment to maintaining open sea lanes. This ongoing conflict highlights the geopolitical stakes involved in the South China Sea, where significant trade routes converge. Southeast Asian nations are increasingly vocal about their concerns as they seek to navigate the delicate balance between economic reliance on China and the need for regional security. As diplomatic talks continue, the potential for miscalculation remains high. The international community is watching closely, and analysts warn that any missteps could lead to a broader conflict. Future negotiations will need to focus on de-escalation and establishing a framework for peaceful coexistence. A new variant of the COVID-19 virus has emerged, raising alarms among health officials worldwide. Preliminary reports indicate that this variant is more transmissible than previous strains, prompting countries to reassess their public health measures. The World Health Organization has urged nations to increase vaccination efforts and maintain mask mandates in high-risk areas. This variant's rapid spread highlights the persistent threat posed by viral mutations, which can undermine progress made through vaccination campaigns. Countries with lower vaccination rates are particularly vulnerable, as they may experience overwhelming surges in cases. Healthcare systems are bracing for a potential influx of patients, which could strain resources and impact non-COVID care. Governments are implementing precautionary measures, including travel restrictions and enhanced testing protocols to mitigate the spread. Public health experts are closely monitoring the variant's characteristics and the effectiveness of existing vaccines against it. In the coming weeks, updated guidance and recommendations are expected from health authorities, emphasizing the need for vigilance and adaptability in combating COVID-19. Continued investment in research and public health infrastructure will be crucial to address emerging threats. The conflict between Russia and Ukraine has escalated dramatically in recent days, leading to widespread fears of a larger war in Eastern Europe. Reports indicate that Russian forces have intensified their attacks on Ukrainian positions, utilizing heavy artillery and drone strikes. This aggressive posture has prompted a robust response from the Ukrainian military, which has mobilized additional troops and resources to defend its sovereignty. The international community has condemned this aggression, with NATO considering additional military support and defensive measures for Ukraine. Humanitarian concerns are rapidly mounting as civilians in affected areas face increasing dangers, displacement, and a dire lack of essential supplies. This crisis has led to urgent calls from global leaders for diplomatic negotiations to de-escalate tensions and find a peaceful resolution. Sanctions against Russia are being vigorously discussed among Western nations as leaders seek to hold the Kremlin accountable for its actions. The potential for miscalculation remains alarmingly high, with analysts warning that any further escalation could lead to catastrophic consequences. In the coming days, targeted diplomatic efforts will be critical to achieving a ceasefire and restoring stability in the region. Afghanistan is facing a severe humanitarian crisis as millions are at risk of starvation due to ongoing conflict and economic collapse. The United Nations reports that over half the population, approximately 24 million people urgently need assistance, with many families unable to access food, clean water, and healthcare. Years of turmoil, compounded by the Taliban's return to power in 2021, have devastated the economy, leading to widespread unemployment and inflation. Aid organizations are struggling to deliver supplies amid escalating security concerns and bureaucratic obstacles imposed by the Taliban regime. The international community has called for immediate action to address the crisis, urging nations to provide humanitarian assistance without political conditions. However, the lack of international recognition of the Taliban government complicates efforts to mobilize aid effectively. Local communities are banding together to support one another, but the scale of need is overwhelming and resources are dwindling. As winter approaches, the situation is expected to worsen, with food shortages becoming more critical. Policymakers must prioritize humanitarian efforts while considering the long-term stability of the region. The coming months will be pivotal in determining whether Afghanistan can avert further suffering and begin to rebuild its shattered society. China's economy is facing a significant slowdown, with recent data indicating a sharp decline in growth rates. The country's GDP growth has fallen to its lowest level in decades, raising concerns among global investors and trading partners. Contributing factors include a decrease in exports, reduced consumer spending, and ongoing supply chain disruptions exacerbated by the lingering effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. Additionally, the property sector, a critical driver of economic activity, is experiencing a severe crisis, leading to widespread defaults and project delays. The Chinese government has implemented stimulus measures designed to boost the economy, such as interest rate cuts and infrastructure investments, but these efforts have yet to yield substantial results. Analysts warn that if the slowdown continues, it could have far-reaching implications for the global economy, given China's status as the world's second-largest economy. A prolonged downturn in China could lead to decreased demand for imports from various countries, potentially triggering economic instability worldwide. The Chinese government is under immense pressure to address these challenges while balancing public expectations and maintaining social stability. As the situation develops, further economic reforms may be necessary to restore confidence in China's growth prospects. The upcoming policy decisions will be critical in shaping the trajectory of both China's economy and the global market landscape. Thank you for watching today's news recap. Which story shocked you the most? Don't forget to like and subscribe for more updates.